Chapter 2. An Unnerving Waiting. Generally, the Loud Sisters in Silent Places didn't get along very well. Even by definition, they were quite opposites. They were young, energetic kids whose lifestyle had turned them very noisy. They rarely found themselves without anything to do, and their activities tended to attempt against peace wherever they were. That partially explained why that felt so bad. So many hours sitting there, having the whisper, and without anything to do but wait was affecting them. However, they were mostly affected by the fact that they were in the hospital's waiting room with no news from their doctors. Lori checked her phone, a quarter to 4. They had arrived to the hospital almost 5 hours before. Apparently, Lincoln and Lynn were just playing soccer when he got hit right in the head by the ball, and then he fainted. When she couldn't wake him up, Lynn panicked and started screaming for help. Some people in the park gathered around to help her, and they quickly called an ambulance. Lola and Lena saw a small group of people that seemed to be looking at some accident, so they went there, curious about it. When they found it was Lincoln, however, they ran to tell their parents, separating at some point to find them faster. Lori was trying to keep Lenny away from some attention-desperate punks when they saw Lena. The little one was running and screaming for her parents. She was crying too. Worried, the oldest loud sibling went to her. "Lena, what happened?" she asked, looking for an injury. "He's bleeding and he won't wake up," she said, sobbing, while tears kept running down her cheeks as she tried to wipe her nose. "Who's bleeding?" "Lincoln," she answered before throwing herself into her sister's arms. Lori literally dragged Lenny away from the boys, running where Lena guided her. When they got there, Lori's heart skipped a beat or two as she saw her little brother laying still on the ground, clearly unconscious, with a trickle of blood coming down his nose. Her parents were already there with Lola, Lily, and Lisa, trying to calm down a hysterical Lynn. She was trying to tell them what happened, but the crying and mumbling made it impossible to understand her. A moment later, Luna, Lucy, and Luann arrived, having seen the commotion in the park. The 10 sisters were all scared and deathly worried. Their parents weren't much better, but they tried to calm themselves. Fortunately, the ambulance came really soon, and they immediately took Lincoln to the nearest hospital. As soon as they entered the hospital, time slowed down. Every minute became a little eternity. Almost an hour after they arrived, a doctor finally approached to tell them how Lincoln was. The poor man quickly found himself cornered against a wall where the 10 sisters surrounded him, asking about their brother's condition. Lisa even took his notes and started reading the test results herself when Mr. Loud called them and made them leave the doctor alone. Being able to breathe again, the doctor explained that Lincoln was stable, but anesthetized. They were yet to discover the cause of the fainting, so he asked permission to run some more tests. The parents agreed and asked when they would be able to see him. He told them they needed to wait for the tests to be completed and the drug's effect to be worn out. It would take a couple of hours. So the Loud family made themselves comfortable in the waiting room and waited. And waited, and waited. 5 long hours of silence, of being worried to no end. Lori looked around. Lenny was watching herself in a pocket mirror, but her mind was clearly somewhere else. Luna had her arm around Lynn's shoulders. Lynn was hugging her own knees against her chest. Luna and Luann were trying to cheer her up, but they were downcast as well. The latter hadn't cracked a single joke since they got there. Lucy was holding one of her vampire novels, opened on the same page for half an hour now, while Lisa was listing out loud all the possible causes of Lincoln's fainting and their respective treatments. The twins, meanwhile, were still scared by the image of their brother's unconscious face covered in blood. Lola was resting her head on her sister's shoulders, not caring that her hair was right next to Lena's dirty cap. Lori sighed and checked her phone again. 10 to 4, and 5 new messages from Bobby. He wanted to know how everything was going. She told him that they still didn't know everything. He texted a sad emoji and told her that as soon as he could get out of work, he would go to the hospital to see her. He also told her Ronnie and Anne was really worried, and she would like to visit Lincoln too. She was about to tell him it was probably not a good idea when the same doctor from earlier came out from a door. They all got up right away, but their father stopped him before they did anything. He approached the doctor with his wife. So, doctor, any news? Well, we're still not sure about what brought him here in the first place, but at least we know it's not an infection. That's good, right? It could be. He's reacting well to the medication, and that's always a good thing, but it's still too early for the blood test to give us anything. But we'll soon have the CT scan ready, and hopefully we will dismiss more serious conditions. Okay, said Mr. Loud, hugging his wife. How is he? That's why I came here. He woke up a couple minutes ago. He was pretty confused, but I was able to calm him down. He really wants to see you, but he's really tired, he added, looking askance to his daughters. So maybe it would be better if we if we could, keep the girls quiet and don't disturb them. That helped him, Miss Loud. Yes, that's right. You can see him, but carefully and quietly. All right. Thank you, Doctor. The medic went back to the door, waiting for the Louds to follow him. Before that, Mr. Loud spoke to the daughters. All right, girls, pay attention. We are going to see Lincoln. But if even one of you raises her voice or does anything that could upset or bother him, we're all going to get kicked out. Get it? Yes, sir, they all answered. He's probably going to be really tired, so please take it easy. Try not to disturb him, and don't hug him too tight. And don't touch anything, added Mrs. Loud. Once they all promised they'd behave, they passed the door and finally made it to the room's wing. They followed the doctor through the long hall with doors on both sides. The girls were desperately looking for Lincoln's room, like they feared the doctor would miss it. They looked through every open door, and as they kept going, they felt more nervous. The endless hall was extremely silent. Their steps resounded against a wall, interrupted only by the occasional chat between nurses carrying medicines and medical equipment. They passed by a lot of occupied rooms. Some of the patients looked actually happy, watching TV or reading a book in their beds. But there were others who looked like they were in pain or terribly tired. Lori prayed for her brother to be okay. Here we are, finally said the doctor, stepping in the room. Hey, fella, found someone in the hall? I think they'd like to see you. Come on in. The family entered, and Lori let out a sigh of relief. Lincoln was sitting on his bed, a warmly smile across his face. If it weren't for the bandage on his arm from where they took the blood sample, probably, and the fact that he was wearing a hospital gown, he could be just hanging on his room's bed. Mom, Dad, he excitedly said, getting up from the bed. Lincoln, what did I tell you? Asked the doctor, frowning. The boy sat down once again, with his feet dangling from the side of the bed. Then I shouldn't get up, he answered, a little embarrassed. Oh, honey, said Miss Loud, getting closer with Lily on her arms. I'm so glad to see you well. How do you feel? Asked Mr. Loud. Great. My head's not hurting anymore. He told me that he's been having strong headaches lately, along with some sleeping issues. Were you aware of this? Asked the doctor. What? No, we weren't. Lincoln, why didn't you tell us? I don't know. I thought it was nothing, he said nervously, playing with his fingers. I guess I didn't want you to worry about nothing. Lincoln, you need to tell us these type of things. We will judge whether it's worth worrying over or not, said Mrs. Loud, while trying to keep Lily from grabbing Lincoln's hair. The words sounded a little more stern than she intended, and Lincoln looked down. Mom, Don't lecture Lincoln, intervened Lori, getting closer to her brother and giving him a relieved smile. Hey, Link. Hi, Lori, he cheerfully said. You look tired. Well, it's been a long day. Lincoln was about to say something, but he felt someone pulling his robe. When he was looking down, he saw both Lena and Lola looking at him with watery eyes and trembling lips. Are you gonna be okay? Asked Lola, almost inaudibly. Get well soon, Lincoln. Please, said Lena, hugging her older brother's leg. He gently caressed their hairs, trying to comfort them. The doctor excused himself and left the room, leaving the family alone. Girls, don't worry, I'm okay. Your big brother's gonna be okay. You don't need to be worried. Well, we all are, bro, said Luna, stepping closer too. We are pretty scared, you know. Oh, guys. I'm sorry. Wait, Lincoln's sorry? What did he do? Asked Lenny, confused as always. I believe our brother is expressing an unjustified and exaggerated feeling of regret that comes from some sort of guilt for making us his relatives, to be worried about the lack of certainties regarding his post-traumatic and fainting state of health, tried to explain Lisa, while adjusting her glasses with her right index finger. Son, you don't need to apologize for anything. It's not your fault, assured him Mr. Loud. Lincoln's not the only one feeling guilty over something they shouldn't, said Lucy. Lynn's like that too. Everybody turned to see Lynn. Indeed, while the rest of the girls had stepped closer to her brother's bed, Lynn was standing against a wall, with her arms crossed over her belly, like she was unconsciously hugging herself. Lynn, asked her mother. Lynn, you didn't have anything to do with this, assured Lincoln. You know that, don't you? She looked at the floor, biting her lower lip. Luna moved closer and put a hand on her shoulder. Lynn, I'm okay, really. Please don't feel bad. The girl continued staring down for a few moments. Then she finally pushed Luna's hand away from her and started quickly advancing towards Lincoln, frowning and clenched fists. Both Lincoln and Lori immediately recognized her body language. It was the same she always used when she was about to punch someone in the face. The older sister tried to step in her way, but her mother stopped her. Lori looked at her confused, but Miss Loud simply smiled and signaled her to watch. Lynn stopped right in front of Lincoln, with the twins still hugging his legs. Looking puzzled at their sister, she stood still for a few seconds. Suddenly, she jumped at Lincoln. He really thought that she was going to pin him down, but he ended up utterly surprised when he realized she was just giving him a hug. A very tender, soft hug, which was totally out of character for her. Before he could react, Lori hugged him too, and then Luna, and then Lenny. Soon he was surrounded by his sisters, being in the center of a group hug. They stayed like that for a few minutes with their parents happily watching. Girls, let Lincoln breathe, will you? They stepped back a little, and after finally taking that load off, they all seemed more relaxed. They took some plastic chairs they found in the room and some from the empty room next door, and sat around his bed while trying to initiate a conversation. Even if they were keeping their promise of keeping their voices down, they all wanted to talk with Lincoln, and he couldn't understand not even one of his siblings. Girls, calm down. The doctor said it's going to be a while before we get the results. There's no reason to hurry. Lincoln clearly saw Luann opening her mouth as if to say something, but she quickly closed it. Luann, you want to say a joke, don't you? Oh, no, she said, even though nobody was buying it. I mean, this isn't the time for jokes. Actually, I'm pretty bored. I could use some comic relief, he insisted with a smile. Come on, Luann, make it fast. Since they insisted, Luann stopped containing herself. Well, Mom and Dad are right. There's no need to hurry. We just gotta be patient. There was a small silence after the pun was delivered, which was something Luann was used to. What she wasn't ready for was seeing Lincoln closing his eyes and his chest spasming. "Lincoln, are you okay?" asked Lynn, worried about the possibility that he was getting agitated again. He covered his face with a hand. His chest was definitely convulsed. He finally looked at smiling. "Patient." They watched him dumbfounded for a few seconds before Luna started laughing too. They all looked at each other, and one by one they all laughed, louder and louder, until they were all hysterically crying. The parents were watching all this, and that image would stay printed on their minds like a Polaroid. It was going to be, after all, the last time the whole family was having a good time. They continued talking for a long while, until the room's door opened and the doctor entered, with various notes and what appeared to be a radiography on his hand. The girls barely contained themselves from jumping against the doctor once again. "Excuse me, could I speak with you privately, Mr. and Mrs. Loud?" he asked, while signaling outside. "Sure, we'll be right back, sweetheart," Miss Loud told Lincoln before giving Lily to Laurie and going out of the room with her husband and the doctor. Naturally, as soon as the door was closed, all 10 sisters were right next to it, trying to listen to what the grown-ups were talking about. "What are they saying?" asked Lena, sticking her ear against a wall. "Shh," hissed Luann. "We can't hear if you talk." "Shh, we can't hear anything if you're telling her to shut it," said Lola. "Don't you see we can't hear anything if you keep talking?" "Guys, you better keep it down," said Lincoln. "Shut up!" yelled all her sisters, turning around to look at him. At that moment the door opened, revealing the parents, not surprised at all for finding the girls trying to eavesdrop. They stayed paralyzed for an instant before smiling and adopting casual poses. They thought they were getting some kind of lecture, but Mr. Loud barely sighed. "Girls, say goodbye to Lincoln," he finally said. "Laurie, take them home." "What?" they said in unison. "Well, we barely entered here. We don't even know how he is. It's too soon. I want to say with—" "Silence!" They were all taken aback by their father's yell. He raised a hand to his head, massaging his temples. "Girls, tomorrow is a school day, and it's getting late. Go home, have dinner, and go to sleep early. Your mother and I will stay here. Laurie, take them home." "But, Dad—" "Take them home." It had been a while since Laurie saw her father this nervous. He seemed to be restraining himself to not yell at them, which was really worrying. What did the doctor say? Why would he be like this? As much as she wanted to stay right next to her brother until they were 100%, totally sure that he was okay, she knew right away that arguing would only make things worse. "Come on, girls. Say goodbye to Lincoln." With Laurie surrendering, the rest of the sisters looked down, defeated. One by one they said goodbye to Lincoln, hugging him, giving him a peck on the cheek and wishing him the best. He told them that everything was going to be okay, with a big smile on his face. A minute later, Laurie leaded the sisters to the hospital parking lot. They entered the van, not even thinking about which seat each one of them occupied. As she was checking Lily's seatbelt, Laurie silently prayed for her little brother to be okay. Back in the room, Miss Loud was trying to calm down her husband. "Maybe I was too harsh on them. Don't worry, dear. They know you're anxious too." I'm sorry about this whole situation," said the doctor. "But I think it was better to talk with you first." He went close to one apparatus on the wall. Lincoln thought it seemed like another light screen, but He remembered watching TV shows and movies where the doctors used to use them to show radiographies more clearly. We still don't have the blood test, but we do have the CT scan, he said, without looking at Lincoln or his parents. And? Asked Miss Loud. The doctor, just as Lincoln thought, put the CT against the screen. He didn't really know what he was looking at. A lot of blurred marks and some white spots here and there. Maybe there were about 6 white spots, all pretty small. He then realized that the blurred outline had the shape of his head from up-down view. The doctor contemplated his and his parents' reaction without saying anything. It almost seemed like he was expecting them to understand without having to explain it. Lincoln certainly didn't get it, but his parents seemed to. Is that... No. Could it be? Said his father, looking incredulous at the screen. No, repeated his mother, covering her mouth with her hands. Lincoln started to worry. Her mother worked in a medical institution. Yes, it was a dentist's office, but that enabled her to read radiographies, right? Why did she look so shocked? Mom? Called her, but she was lost in the sight before her, repeating the same word over and over. No. No. Dad, what is it? What's that? What do I have? Seeing that the boy's parents were in a state of shock, the doctor slowly stepped closer to Lincoln. He bent until he was eye level with him, and tentatively put a hand on his shoulder. He opened his mouth to say something, but he was clearly looking for the right words to say. He finally took a deep breath and looked him in the eyes.